Welcome to the Intercut podcast channel, the weekly place to get the latest on the movies, TV, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me right now is nobody, but very soon will be a rotating selection of friends and critics that we know from our years of going to different festivals like the Toronto International Film Festival. We already talked about our 10 favorite movies of the festival. You can check out that video. Thanks to Chase Azarian for joining us on that one. But we wanted to bring in some more friends of the show to give their picks for the best movie they saw in Toronto, the movie that surprised them the most at the festival, and the film they think not enough people are talking about, despite it having played at this year's Toronto International Film Festival. A reminder that you can check out our Letterboxd for a complete list of movies we recommended and even just mentioned during this episode. So hope you enjoy. We're bringing on a few friends and one face you're probably pretty familiar with to give their takes on the festival. I'm joined by KARSTEN of RUNQUIST fame after yet another journey north of the border to the Toronto International Film Festival. How was your time at TIFF this year? How did it compare to previous Toronto film festivals you've been to?
It was great. It was great. Now, I've been so many times that it feels super familiar at this point, and I just feel very comfortable at this fest. I really did not watch nearly as much as I usually do. This was actually the slowest year I've ever had with TIFF, but I do think I watched everything I did watch was worth my time, and I wish I could have seen more.
Yeah, I mean, at least you have like a good batting average, even if you're setting personal lows for film counts.
Definitely a low for sure. Yeah,
yeah. But it was a really solid year. So I'm sure even if you didn't get to as many movies as you hoped, you saw a bunch of good stuff. Of the movies that you did catch, what was your favorite movie at TIFF this year?
I have really struggled with this, and I decided just now that Sirat, I think, was my highlight. It was between this and No Other Choice, but Sirat was really, it's the one that's kind of stuck with me. It's a desert rave movie. It's about a father who goes looking for his missing daughter at a desert rave with his young son. And I don't want to say much more about the plot because it's fun to see what happens. It's certainly not what I was expecting, but it's been kind of, people have been comparing it a lot to William Friedkin's Sorcerer, obviously, and then some climax in there just because of all the rave elements, and then a lot of weirdly like Mad Max Fury Road. It's a combination of those three movies is how I've been pitching it, but at the same time it's a very unique tone. Feels very powerful stylistically, and I mean there, it's gotten some backlash around its where it takes place and where they filmed it, but the more I've been thinking about it, the more I feel like the film is more aware of that than people are giving it credit for, and it's actually saying something about the ethics of being in this space and the way people are using it. And so I think it's just a really fascinating film that really kind of affected me and turned my brain to sludge.
I keep hearing that comparison to Mad Max Fury Road too, which gets me really excited. That's one of my favorites, and I mean everything you compared it to is setting a pretty high bar.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, It Was Just an Accident was the Palme d'Or winner at Cannes this year, and I feel like almost everybody was really excited coming off of Sentimental Value, but more and more I hear people reacting to Sirat coming out of this festival. It seems to have really surprised some people.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of you see the synopsis and like I don't know, something about the poster. It doesn't really like jump out at you, but I think anyone who's seen it, after the first act of this film, you're kind of immediately like, this is something much bigger than we're aware of. It's a pretty powerful film, yeah.
Awesome. I'm really excited to catch up with it. Of the movies you saw, what was the one that surprised you the most?
I'm gonna have to go with Dead Man's Wire by Gus Van Sant.
I'm with you.
So like it's not a surprise, I guess, that like such a legendary filmmaker like Gus Van Sant made a good movie, but also the way it was, the way people were talking about it going into the fest, and like the way it was kind of pitching itself. I kind of expected it to be I don't know, in one ear out the other kind of situation. I think I expected it to be a lot more serious than it was. Like it's a really kind of fun time.
Yeah.
Weirdly, but also knows when to get tense and is just like it's just a front to back really well made film in my opinion. That's I don't know, doing something more with the true crime genre and having a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
Definitely, and especially considering Gus Van Sant at this point is kind of like an older legend. You don't necessarily expect something to feel quite as like alive and contemporary, even given that it's a period piece. Like it still feels like it's imbued with a very modern sense of like injustice over social inequality and stuff like that.
Right.
But it was a really fun and loose time, which are not adjectives I normally associate with Gus Van Sant movies.
Yeah. I think it's going to get labeled in, I don't know how old he is, but like I can so see this being labeled in like the late style type of film that people have been praising recently.
Looks good for 73.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's like some choices where people will, call it a bit of an old man movie, but I will say like I thought it was incredibly sharp. And like you said, it had so much to say about, this type of film. Plus, what's his name? Bill Skarsgård is fantastic in it. Like, see it for that alone. He's a total blast.
Yeah.
Also, people, I have to say, I've been seeing people clown on Al Pacino in the film, and they're like, he's making some weird choices. But I would say this is like one of the few times where the film is really working in his favor. Like, I think he's a lot of fun in the film, and
peppering him throughout adds like a little bit of a unexpected vibe. Like he jolts the energy of the movie whenever he shows up.
Yeah. No, it's a good time. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I was into it.
I think we came out of the same screening, and I was talking to a bunch of people who were kind of mixed to positive on it, and we were the ones who were really excited about it. So I was glad to have somebody to share my energy in that moment.
Yeah. It's also just like, no one's talking about it. It kind of came and went, and I'm like, let's give this one some love.
Yeah, it's a solid movie with some pretty interesting stuff to say.
Yeah.
So among the movies you saw, then, what would you say is the film that you wish more people were talking about?
I am going to go with Nino, which is Pauline Loquez, her directorial debut, or her feature debut. It stars Theodore Pellerin. I need to learn how to pronounce his name.
I was saying Pellerin, but he's French, so maybe
right.
not, right?
Yeah,
my guy from Lurker and Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
Yes, yeah. I'm probably overcomplicating it, but that's him.
Pellerin or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that.
It's his movie. I mean, he's dominating, every single scene here. And if you're a fan of his, like I am, you're getting fed well here, because he's just so captivating to watch in this film. It's about a man who, discovers that he has cancer, and then kind of spends the rest of the movie visiting friends and family, and just doing what he has to do before he gets treatment. And it's very similar to, like, if anyone's a fan of like Oslo, August 31st, it's kind of that kind of vibe of like, you're running out of time and you have to go see all your loved ones, and you're kind of like reflecting on your own life in the midst of terrible news. And, for such a heavy film that could read as a downer, I found it incredibly uplifting and tender. And it was like a very sweet and kind of surprisingly positive film that I was just really touched by, and it was one of the smaller films I saw here for sure, and it does have that handheld indie quality, but it's one of the best examples of that kind of movie, and I'm sure many people would love it. Yeah.
I've heard a couple people who responded really strongly to this one. I was hoping to catch it, but just didn't have the time. But I'm glad to have it. I'm glad to see your endorsement. I'm definitely gonna make sure it's on my watch list. And I don't think I've seen our guy Theodore act in French before, even though I know he's a Quebecois.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see him in his native tongue.
it was honestly a little bit jarring seeing it coming from Lurker, where he's
Right.
plays a total like LA fuckboy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, he's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like the first time you see some Australian actor talking their native accent after years of doing American. It's like, that's not the voice that should be coming out of your mouth.
I don't know why. This is maybe not a good example, but having just watched the Emmys and seeing Alan Cummings on stage,
Right.
I was like, whoa. Forgot that's how he actually sounded.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thanks for giving your picks, Karsten. We'll catch up for the next TIFF.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I'm joined by Toronto-based filmmaker and Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie crew member, Ben Shane. Ben, really excited to talk with you about your TIFF. How did you enjoy this edition of TIFF? I know you're a local, so you're not unfamiliar with the festival grounds.
Yeah, I mean, my friends and I call it TIFFmas. It's the greatest time of the year.
It's movie Christmas, absolutely.
I every year kind of challenge myself in the most toxic way possible to kind of beat my record for how many movies I've seen, and I did that this year as well.
Amazing. What's your number? What was your number at the end? What'd you get to?
47.
Ooh, that is amazing, and the benefits of the press pass working out, I'm sure.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to ask just what from those 47 really rose to the top, the cream of the crop. A couple questions for you, but I wanted to start out at least with what was the best movie that you saw during your time at TIFF?
My favorite movie I saw was Sirat.
Amazing. That's from Spain, is it?
It is, yeah. I think it premiered at Cannes this year.
Yeah.
And what put it on my radar was the Midnight Madness programmer, Peter. Every couple of months, he picks older film to screen at the Lightbox Theater. And so him and I were talking, and I was explaining to him how I think my favorite movie he's ever programmed was Gaspar Noé's Climax. I saw it just at such an impressionable age. I think I was 17. And it just really stuck with me, and was really kind of like the most fucked up movie I'd seen at that time. And so he recommended that if I love that movie, to definitely check out Sirat at the festival this year. I went into it kind of expecting a very like viscerally upsetting movie, and I completely got that. It really made me feel a pit in my stomach that not many movies give. Like, I would say the only other film I've seen this year that made me feel that way was Warfare. Just like an utterly upsetting movie from beginning to end. I really appreciated how the movie introduces us to its characters all through like dance and no dialogue. The film centers around a father and son looking for their missing. It's like the father's daughter and the son's sister. And the way we're introduced to these characters by them handing out flyers at this like DIY rave in the middle of the Moroccan desert, I thought was like really kind of efficient and economical storytelling. And you just fully immediately feel for these characters without them ever having to speak a word. And then kind of when you enter Act 2, the movie hits you with this like really badass title card. There's a lot of like fast driving in the desert that like in a way was reminiscent of like Mad Max Fury Road. And just the use of music. I believe the film doesn't have a score, and it's all licensed music from this one artist who's like kind of like a DJ. Like, it's got a very like house music, similar vibe to music that you would hear in Climax. And then without giving much away, just like the way that the harsh conditions and dangers that these characters are put through gives off so many of these surprises, twists, and turns that are like really frightening and upsetting to watch pan out. And just like the climax of the movie, you are on the edge of your seat, not knowing the fate of these characters And I was just like utterly gripped and like did not want the movie to end. And the director, Olivier Lax, said that like, I understand this movie is upsetting if you guys can't stay for the Q&A and you just got to go for a walk after. And I went into the screening anticipating that and completely felt that way, like walking to my car after and driving home. Like I had to listen to the soundtrack again and I just didn't want to leave the headspace that it put me in.
Amazing. We love an ominous warning before a film.
Yeah.
Look, any movie that's going to evoke stuff like Climax, stuff like Mad Max Fury Road definitely sounds like an exciting time. I'm really looking forward to catching up with Sirat, especially you mentioned all the like economical storytelling in a thriller like that. It's really exciting. It's strange you bring up Climax. And there was a different movie completely that made me think of Climax. And
really?
I'm assuming it's tonally very different than your pick too. But just the way that the Testament of Anne Lee used body movement within the frame also kind of reminded me of Climax this festival.
Yeah, the choreography in that movie is very haunting, and the way that their body language kind of evokes the tone of the movie, and the way that like through body movement the actors are able to express storytelling, and that was like very fascinating to me.
Excellent. I'm also curious what movie surprised you the most of the 47 you saw at TIFF this year.
I'll throw in kind of like a honorable mention here. I loved Aziz Ansari's work in Master of None, and I saw the trailer for Good Fortune and kind of was like, oh, like this kind of looks like a very average studio comedy. And I thought that it started off that way, but kind of as soon as you enter the second act of that movie, it reminded me, or like it clicked with me, why Aziz went from Master of None to making this comedy as his first feature. Like it was kind of profound in a way that the trailer didn't lend me on to believe. But that movie will kind of come and go, and I don't think is like worth discussing too much. The other thing that surprised me was Poetic License, which is Maud Apatow's directorial debut.
Your preferred of the seemingly conventional looking studio comedies that maybe have a little more depth to them.
Yeah, precisely. Like, I think this Maud movie is kind of easy to write off as like, oh, it's a Nepo baby who's making a movie that's like similarly like too long for a movie of that kind, which is kind of following in her father's footsteps. However, I was like really surprised by how funny it is. She really understood how to direct these two male leads. Like I would go as far as to say that it feels like Maud understands how to use Cooper Hoffman the best in any movie I've seen him in since Licorice Pizza. And I also have like never been fully on board with Andrew Barth Feldman. I thought he had good moments in both No Hard Feelings and Saturday Night, but that his character had a kind of depth to him that he didn't in those other movies. And then of course like Maud, you know, has been acting with her mom in her dad's movies and just, you know, fully understands how to use her mom to her benefit. I thought the script really kind of understood Gen Z in an obvious way, because, you know, Maud is like around my age, but, you know, I'm so kind of sick and tired of scripts that are not written by people around my age that don't understand my generation, or kind of think they understand my generation better than they actually do. And so it was quite refreshing to see like an honest and relatable interpretation of people around my age. And yeah, like I thought that I guess whatever Maud has learned from the process of seeing her mom and dad work was very kind of refined here and strategically put to use. Like in a way, it almost felt like she understands what makes her dad's movies work and not work, and in my opinion, used that to the best of her ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just going back to the dynamic between the Andrew Barth Feldman characters and Cooper Hoffman characters you're talking about, they just have this real ease with each other. The way they're able to go back and forth, almost like a vaudevillian duo. It's really great, and made me kind of like I thought they were both pretty solid actors, but it made me raise the ceiling on what I thought of their abilities for sure.
Totally,
and it is that sort of innate understanding of the closeness that these friendships have, these college-age friendships, and the ways in which they can get complicated by new elements that are natural when you grow up and you meet more people and you become romantically intertwined. It just felt like a really natural depiction of this sort of age and this sort of existential angst in a way.
Totally, yeah. Like, I fully bought their friendship and dynamic between the two of them, like almost immediately. And the kind of archetypes that their two characters are portraying is something that, like, I think we've all seen before. And probably the easiest comparison is like Cooper Hoffman kind of embodies Jonah Hill in Superbad, and Barth Feldman is the Michael Cera of their dynamic. But the way that contemporary society, I guess, is applied to their characters, and that like Cooper Hoffman is very kind of like interested in like red light therapy, and he's a rich kind of asshole, I thought kind of made it feel fresh and like modern in a way that I think a lot of 2020 comedies kind of fail to achieve.
Absolutely. And then one more film, the film that you wish you saw more people talking about at this year's festival.
Yeah, so that film for me is If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. It got like a generally warm response, but I feel like this could potentially be a movie that kind of comes and goes. Like it really reminded me of something like a Safdie Brothers movie, whether it be like Good Time or Uncut Gems. Like tonally, it's very similar to those. And people are kind of giving Rose Byrne Oscar buzz, but to my understanding, like the lead female race this year is quite competitive. And also, like, I believe if Sandler couldn't get the nom for Uncut Gems, that like I have a hard time believing Byrne can for this.
Yeah.
But
it's a challenging performance in a movie that is at times really challenging. And I also wonder sometimes with movies like this where it had its premiere at Sundance, if there's just like less hunger to get your tweets out or get your instant reactions out to a movie on the second or third festival.
Yeah, totally.
But I would agree with you that it is absolutely one of the best films that played at Toronto.
And again, like similar to my Sirat pick, like it's a very stressful, thrilling film that kind of people will either not get or they will and kind of shrug off because it's not the easiest to digest. But the way that this director, Mary Bronstein, is able to kind of capture the camera work and having like the majority of the cinematography be close-ups of Rose Byrne, and like the first shot in the movie I think is brilliant because it's like literally a close-up on her eyes. Was just an amazing way to set the tone and kind of never lets up for its like kind of lengthy 2-hour runtime for the type of film that it is, and kind of the amount of stress and pressure it puts you through.
Yeah, it is pure anxiety attack cinema, like the Safdie brother films that you mentioned. I also felt like it had some at least tonal similarities to Darren Aronofsky's Mother, just the feeling of really want to escape almost the action of the film. And I think one of the things that is really remarkable about it is, like you say, that film is really so focused on Rose Byrne's face. You don't get a lot of wides or masters. It's really, really tight, and she's such a great face actress. Just the ability to read her emotions and how she processes everything. It really guides you through this film in a way that you really do need some kind of tether for If I Had Legs.
Yeah, I kind of bouncing off your point with Mother. An interesting kind of method to Aronofsky's direction there was that like the camera never kind of left Jennifer Lawrence's POV. It would either be like on her or what she's looking at, and it kind of felt like that the camera work approach to this film felt similar. And something else that was surprising to me about it that I think is like worth remembering the film by is that in my opinion, this feels like a kind of different radical turn for Rose Byrne. Like I'm used to seeing her in comedies, and so to not only see her take on a drama, but also one where she's a somewhat kind of unlikable character was very compelling to me, and to kind of see her take the anti-hero approach to this role.
Absolutely. Really appreciate all your picks, Ben. Where can people find more of your opinions or keep tabs on the feature you've got in works?
Yeah, my handle on everything is @ismebenji, so you can find me on like anything there like that.
Awesome. Thanks again for giving us your picks.
Thank you so much, Zach.
The return of the dastardly dissenter. I don't know if you remember any of Bernard's other nicknames for you.
I should, gosh, Bernard. I haven't talked to him in ages. I feel like I should. He'd probably have a whole laundry list of names. But yeah, the dastardly dissenter.
Yeah, we'll have to reach back out and get the full rundown. But my former Way Too IndieCast member and Toronto area film critic and film programmer, CJ Prince. I'm really excited to talk with you about the latest edition of the Toronto International Film Festival. For lots of us, we fly into your city and sample the best that it has to offer as far as films are concerned for a week. But you live with TIFF throughout the year, and
yes.
The Lightbox isn't just a novelty to you. So given your more intimate knowledge of the festival and the mechanisms behind it, I'm curious how you felt about this year as in general at the festival.
I mean, this year, if anyone follows the festival, yes, it's its 50th edition, which is a big occasion, but TIFF has had a very troubled history, partly due to their own ability to sort of step in it, but also due to bad circumstances and timing. Obviously, everybody was impacted by COVID, and then they also had to deal with the strikes in 2023. Something that other film festivals, were not impacted by. And then this year, for the big 50th anniversary, it was a little surprisingly, I would say, business as usual in terms of just like there weren't any really big events for the public or anything of the sort. But obviously they did have a PR crisis, which I think they deal with every year regarding the one particular documentary that was invited, then disinvited, then re-invited after a public shame campaign. But yeah, it was...
and ultimately winning People's Choice on top of that.
The people of that one screening that they only gave it, yes, they chose. And yeah, just a total... I mean, it's kind of expected being a Toronto native, like being based in Toronto, I should say, to just expect Dog's Dinner in some capacity or another. Last year obviously had its own controversies with that Russian documentary that also had many protests. So a bit expected, also a bit underwhelming overall as a festival, because again, for a big anniversary, it felt like it was very subdued. The films, though, which again, that depends every year. The films I actually were okay with. I don't know if that's a sign of just my ability and what I chose this year, like my own discernment or taste, or if I just looked out. Or maybe the films were all good this year. I don't know.
Yeah, I've also felt like I had a generally good time with the films this year. Maybe not as many highlights as every TIFF that I've been to, but definitely fewer lowlights, I think, in this iteration of the festival. Curious, though, what were some of the standouts for you? We can exclude The Road Between Us if that makes things easier. Yeah. What was your favorite film from this iteration of TIFF?
Yeah, my favorite film in a festival, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a great edition, but certainly a less bad edition, that there were less like clunkers, but tons of solid to good stuff. My favorite was one I actually saw a bit earlier in the festival called Sirat by Oliver Lache, which won the jury prize at Cannes this year. That is a film which I'll give little sort of setup for because it's best to know very little going into this film, which is it's about a father and his young son at a rave in the Moroccan desert looking for the father's daughter who sort of ran off some time ago to join a group of ravers, I guess. When they're told that there is a second rave in the desert that people are going to, they decide to tag along with a group of people in the hopes of finding her. And yeah, stuff happens, to say the least. I will give one additional detail that I think is okay to give, but for anyone listening or watching, don't know anything more. Which is that while this is going on, through the background and radio broadcasts and stuff, you understand like World War III is happening, which I think is such a clever way of approaching the plot because it really just destabilizes the narrative trajectory of the film. Like it's open to anything could possibly happen because you really don't know how to take or what can develop from this. And things do happen. Some stuff very sudden, some stuff very shocking, very intense. The direction is some of the best direction I've seen this year. And the score is incredible, just this low bass, techno throughout. And I recommend if anyone can see it in a theater with good sound, and especially with the crowd, because there were moments in the screening where you could just feel the room collectively lock in at certain points. And that's a very fun feeling to have in a room like that. So yeah, Sirat was my favorite.
I'm so excited to catch up with it. I actually have my screening at New York later today, so I'm
nice.
hotly anticipating that one. It's interesting, though, with the films that came from Cannes, obviously, It Was Just an Accident was the Palme d'Or winner, and it felt like a lot of people were really excited for sentimental value. But I think over and over again, I've been hearing from people that were at TIFF that Sirat was the film that really stuck with them.
Yeah, it's a very visceral film. And that's why I think it's stuck with me so much since seeing it. Because again, I saw so many films after that, but this is the one that stuck with me the most, maybe. And I think it's the first film in a few years that sort of just grabbed me and like shook me in a way that I haven't been by a film in some time. So I think that's why I do think once it does come out, more people will sort of be taking. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a little bit of a breakout with people once they actually kind of watch it, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh my god, you can't believe this movie! You have to watch and experience it for yourself."
How about surprises? Were there any movies that you weren't expecting to react the way you did to them?
Yeah, the biggest surprise was Steven Soderbergh's movie, The Christophers. Which
I really enjoyed this one too.
Yeah, I don't think Steven Soderbergh is a bad director in the slightest, but I do think he approaches filmmaking the way of like someone tries on different outfits. He's trying something different each time. Doesn't necessarily fit nicely every time, but it's sometimes enjoyable just to sort of watch him sort of try things out. I haven't really enjoyed something of his in quite some time. Not that he made bad stuff, like Black Bag was okay. Like I was fine with that. Presence didn't really work for me, but like this one I surprisingly had a very good time with. I find it's a very entertaining, breezy film where you have Michaela Cole and Ian McKellen, the sort of two-hander of McKellen playing this older artist who's sort of faded from relevance, and Michaela Cole playing his assistant who's actually hired by McKellen's daughter to, complete these infamous incomplete paintings of his and forge them basically so that his children can sell them after he dies and make money for themselves off of his legacy. So it has a very playful screenplay, some really nice dialogue that flows from Ed Solomon, who's a screenwriter that I know has worked with Soderbergh on and off for the last decade. And I think even then what I enjoy is that it doesn't have a clear thesis statement per se, but it just mingles around in these ideas of art and subjectivity, and I think how the value of art is tied to that and how it inflates and deflates over time due to changing societal perceptions. And just to sort of exist in that space for a bit was actually just really fun, and I think both Michaela Cole and Ian McKellen are really good in it.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's great performances from them both. I'm glad you highlighted the Ed Solomon script because it just really engages with these ideas in a way that I found thought-provoking and engaging. Sometimes a very talky movie can be really dull and really listless, but this wasn't in that way. And With Soderbergh, it's interesting. I've been comparing his recent work to just like going to the gym. It just sort of feels like he's working out different muscles, different parts of his body, and sometimes it really feels like something he excels in and finds an interesting path in, and sometimes it's just a formal exercise of sorts. But I think this one stands above some of the recent work. I thought there was a lot to really dig into here.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite since maybe Side Effects or the Mosaic app. I didn't watch the show, but I watched the whole thing on my phone. That was a very fun
missed the app.
I miss it. I wish they should put it on like a Blu-ray or something as like a thing. Anyway,
that'd be great. How about the movie that you wish you saw more people talking about? There's a lot of stuff that gets a lot of buzz coming out of the festivals, but I know you're somebody who tries to dive into the wavelengths and some of the films that aren't necessarily the big premieres coming out of TIFF.
Yeah, actually, this one was somewhat of a surprise too. It's a film that I actually reviewed at the film stage during TIFF. The film Two Pianos by Arnaud Desplechin, which is a French drama. For people, background, I guess, Arnaud Desplechin is a French director who I think had a bit of a flash in the 2000s with these sort of ensemble dramedies like A Christmas Tale and Kings and Queen. But I think as the public perception has sort of faded away from these kinds of French dramas, he has sort of also faded out, but he's still been working steadily. This is his latest. It is this drama about a pianist who was a child prodigy who fled his hometown in when he's a teenager. He comes back after 8 years to do concerts with his mentor who's about to retire, and then he bumps into his first love, who basically was the reason why he left all those years ago. And there's a whole story as to why he left, and also she herself has her own guilt around their relationship, or their romance, I should say, back when they were younger. The two of them have obviously tried to build lives for themselves in the aftermath of that. And when they reunite, it just reignites all of these old tormented emotions of guilt and shame. And I found it to be a very sort of compelling film in how it dealt with these people who, like, the old saying is like, the only way out is through. And these are people who I think have spent their entire lives digging around it. And they have this brief period of time where they have to face it. And they're sort of caught between just the torment of, having to face this thing that they just feel awful about, or, just dealing with the constant emotional labor of like digging constantly around it to just avoid for as much as they can in their life, in their lives. And that I found to be such a really interesting idea. And I like the way Arnaud Desplechin explores that. I think it's a really, really good script. And overall, I think in terms of like an adult drama, I know people probably will just have their limits with the French drama with some adultery and stuff mixed in there, but I think this is as good as you can get. It was a film that I know apparently they were handing out free tickets to the gala premiere. It's a world premiere TIFF gala. If you've been to TIFF not long enough, a world premiere gala is a red flag usually. So it was a bit yeah.
It's also, if I'm not mistaken, one of the later world premieres of the festival, and sometimes those later world premieres happen after a lot of people already have left town.
Yeah, he's usually a mainstay at Cannes, whether that's the festival proper or like the sidebar, like the Director's Fortnight, or the Parallel Festival, I mean. And he wasn't there at all this year. So it's a bit of a surprise that it showed up at Toronto as a world premiere. So I think people avoided it. And again, people I think have largely written him off. But I will be honest, I was not a big fan of his work when I first got introduced to it years ago. But over time, I've definitely warmed up to it. And I just enjoy his I think his style is very much, his films can feel very flawed in the ways I think life, this sounds a bit pretentious, but like life itself is very messy and all over the place. And sometimes his films evoke that. But I think that it reaches towards a certain truth and relatability that I think a lot of other films don't exactly nail in the way that he does.
Sounds very French. Sounds very interesting.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate the recommendation. Thank you for your pick, CJ. If people want to hear more of your opinions and get a taste of your idiosyncratic opinions, where should they find them?
You can find me on Twitter /X/ whatever you want to call it at CJ_PRIN. I also have a Substack called Acquired Cinema, where I am obsessive with the idiosyncratic nature of films at major film festivals getting North American distribution, because I always like to know how the hell am I going to watch these movies that play at these festivals.
Yeah, would absolutely recommend reading more about CJ, reading more of CJ's opinions. CJ, I think, does a really good job of highlighting particularly underseen films and those films that slip through the cracks. And I find that your opinions and your tastes always challenge my own in ways I appreciate and expand the way I think about a lot of movies. So I'm glad we got to talk about movies from TIFF this year.
Thank you very much, Zach.
Previous guest of the show, MURJANI RAWLS, joins us once again, writer for the Star Ledger, Substream Magazine, going from the busyness of one film festival right into another with New York.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're still in it, right? Like we left Toronto, but like we're back. It felt like we never left.
The movies never stop.
Yeah, I felt like we just kind of like switched places, you know?
Exactly.
But it's good.
Switch
it's
venues.
good. It's an exciting time, you know? Like it's like,
Definitely.
you know, and one battle after another this week. It's kind of like the early award season. A lot of people, you know, jockeying for position and stuff. I'm excited. Have you gotten some rest since we came back from TIFF?
Barely any, but you know, enough that I can keep at it and keep watching movies and find a little bit of time to talk about them in between. I do still want to talk about some of the movies from TIFF. I'm not quite done thinking about those films we saw in Toronto. I wanted to ask you your opinion on some of those movies, and if there's a movie from the 25 that you saw north of the border that stood out as the best film you saw at TIFF.
I would say, like, it's funny because like I saw everybody did their tally at the end, and I saw 25 films. I didn't see the big ones, like I didn't see, you know, Sentimental Value or Hamnet. So like mine might be a little bit skewed, but I think it was a tie between Mile End Kicks, which I thought was very good, and went. It's just kind of like a coming of age story that went away that I didn't expect, which was very good, and it was just an accident. Another movie that you think that is going to go one way, but is mostly comedic throughout the entire film until you get to the last 15 minutes, and then it really hits you home like with a hard emotional center that brings it all together. It was funny because like these films were the first day at TIFF, and they just kind of kept on sticking in my mind. So yeah, those are my two favorites.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the new film from Chandler Levesque, Mile End Kicks, it was such a delight, and I feel like, you know, obviously as people who have strong connections to music, we can relate to Barbie Ferreira's character there. It's got a lot of that sort of like almost famous vibes to it. For you, I feel like we see a lot of coming of age films at film festivals, but you feel like this stands apart from them as like a particularly good coming of age movie?
I just think that Barbie Ferreira plays very good. Heart is in the right place, but flawed characters. There's kind of like a really sincerity and a sweetness to her. I think that, you know, what we saw from like Bob Trevino Likes It, and now in like this movie where it starts with a young journalist who goes out to Montreal to write about, you know, she's writing a piece about Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. So you know, not to spoil anything, you expect that to be the movie, right? Like, and then for like Alanis Morissette to come out and like, oh, well, like this full circle moment. But no, like she goes on an entirely different journey, writing about a small band with another good, like with Morgan actors from, I forget his name from the Iron Claw.
Stanley Simons.
Yeah, Stanley Simons, right? So he's like, he plays like this like eccentric, I don't really care lead singer of this band that nobody knows, but like the fact that like, you know, they can give to something, like she's a good journalist, like she could write about them, and then she falls for him, but like he's very like, oh, I'm artsy, I can't, you know, do this. blah blah blah, but like still kind of acts like a jerk to her. But the way that the movie plays out, like, and the way that like Chandler kind of plays it out, like it's a journey of a flawed person. It's a feel good ending, but like also very like, well, like I lost this, I gained this, but now I got to start from here.
It's sort of like a classic bittersweet coming of age movie where the character has broken some things on her journey, but comes out stronger in the end for it, or having learned a lot and grown a lot through the process.
And with that, it kind of acknowledges like a lot of things, especially in the music industry in the early 2000s, where like it was very male dominated, and like female journalists like being in the room of male dominated newsrooms, like there's certain expectations, and like when wanting to do good work, you have to fight through chauvinists and like go for the stories that you really want to do. And unfortunately, like I think that in newsrooms now, women and journalists of color are still going through that. I feel like maybe sometimes we have a regression of that right now. But it's a story about that. It's a story about like, you know, like expression, sex, the indie, like the 2000 indie scene, especially in Toronto. And it's a whole cross section of things that just worked in Barbie Ferreira's character. It's just great.
Yeah, it's a really special little movie. And then I'm glad you also really responded to it. It was not, or it's not just an accident. I still need to catch up with the new Panahi movie, but he's a filmmaker I like quite a lot. And obviously it was the Palme d'Or winner. What was it about the film? Is it sort of that it is so funny despite having some kind of stark subject matter?
I find the movie that it's about kind of what retribution looks like to people, and the fact that like it does it in a very funny way as these characters go on a journey to maybe atone for the trauma and the things that have been done to them. But there is a movie there that could have just been like a revenge thriller, right? It could have been like a Suzu or a Midnight Madness movie where like they just like kill off the guy and or kill off the person. But it's a very funny. He does it in a very funny way through these characters, like as they go through this journey of like they find the guy that like was like a main figure in like their torture and things like that. Like, and then they like have to figure out, well, what do we do? Like, we're not murderers or anything like that. Like, what do we do? Even though like the people that we despise maybe are, and in kind of the last, I would say 20 minutes, there's this moment of catharsis where like it stops being funny. And then there's this like release of anger and release of heart, of hatred, not so much hatred, but like an emotional release that you feel as though like now you're questioning you're questioning the main character that they're after, and you see that in humanity we're all alike, but our choices kind of separates us. You know what I mean? Like, you know, many people have families, but then you wonder why. Well, if I have a family, I have children, I go through these same hardships that you do. Why do you choose to do something? Choose to do atrocities like, you know, against me or people who look like me? So that really brings it home, and I could see why I won the Palme d'Or. Like, you know, like, yeah, really powerful stuff.
It sounds really exciting. I can't wait to see it. So those are films that stood out to you as the best you saw, but what was the film at Toronto that surprised you the most?
I mean, like I told the group that I was really looking forward to The Smashing Machine because I don't know if everybody's aware that, you know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson has been on like this tear of like, I could finally do these like hard, difficult, like dramatic pieces, even though he's going to be in Moana next year, you know, like, and then like starting Jumanji, like, you know, production of Jumanji 3 in November. Like he's finally getting let out of this like big budget cage, right?
Yeah, he's not letting the industry pigeonhole him any longer.
No, not at all. So, Benny Safdie comes along and is like, well, I got you, bud. And, it's the portrait of, like, I keep up with MMA. I've keep up with a lot of sports biopics. And this portrait of Mark Kerr. What surprised me a lot, and I think that I've seen this coin from people who've seen it, is that it's very much an anti-biopic. I do feel like it hits the same notes that a lot of them do. Like, like you have the rise of the figure, then the downfall of the figure, and then the eventual kind of like redemptive arc that they do. But Safdie's movie does this in a way that is very, like, I would say, like 3-quadrant, right? It's like a buddy movie of sorts. Like, you see Mark Kerr like friendship relationship with Mark Coleman, and then it becomes like a redemptive arc for him. And then there's like Kerr's relationship with his like girlfriend, then soon to be wife Dawn. It feels like the movie, like, their relationship is very volatile, and then the movie just kind of is like a lot of arguments between Dwayne and Emily's character. And then, like, there is kind of the psychological and physical aspects of Mark's story, right? Like, he was undefeated. He was one of the first big top, like, MMA fighters in Pride and UFC. But it, like, touches on the drug story, and then I feel like it quickly moves past it. So it surprised me in the fact that, like, it wasn't conventional. I'm still kind of debating where, if it hit everything that I thought it was, or like I thought like it was all like great. But I feel, for as much as he said in the press, Dwayne Johnson is great in this movie. He gives his all to being Mark Kerr, and like the conflicts within him, where, like, I think he said in the Q&A, like, he's this vicious person in the ring, but he's almost like emotional teddy bear outside of it.
It must be fascinating to see Dwayne Johnson also just stretch himself, because he's an actor who has been so similar in so many of these roles, but at least under Benny Safdie's direction, seems to be actually giving a real performance for a change.
You've seen him in like Red One and like Black Adam, and like those roles where he's just like, I'm Dwayne Johnson, like, I'm like that, like, I'm just the action star. And it was good to see him just go
in a way.
Yeah, like, basically, that. So it was good to see him go deep into, like, where, like, can you display emotionality in a character without being physical? Like,
right.
Like, can you show, like, really, like, content with something without, like, tearing somebody to shreds, and like saying, like, get out of, like, Dwayne Johnson, the final boss from WWE, and like Dwayne Johnson, somebody who, like, is like, that we kind of took chances in his beginning year, like the Southland Tales and movies like that. It was good to see him come back like that. Emily Blunt, it seems like, is his acting kindred spirit, which is interesting. But like, this movie kind of like gives her, or Dawn, basically, it feels like she's in a circle, where, like, she's bad for him. They obviously love each other, but like the movie conveys that she wants to be there for Mark, but she also doesn't show it. So yeah, that I think on rewatch I would have to kind of reanalyze that.
Interesting. As far as the movie that you wish more people were talking about, because there's obviously over 200 movies playing at TIFF, and sometimes there are movies that just don't get the hype they deserve. What slipped through the cracks for you this year?
See, okay, this might be cheating because we saw it at Sundance this year, but I'm gonna sing the praises because I don't feel enough people are talking about it. If I had legs, I'd kick you.
Yeah.
Seeing it a second time is an amazing movie to me. When we went to TIFF last year, obviously we had like movies that like motherhood, like Night Bitch from a like almost like a body horror standpoint. Baby Girl kind of did it from like a sexual standpoint. I think If I Had Legs I'd Kick You is a all-time performance from Rose Byrne.
Yeah.
Just amazing. You feel the tension that Rose's character Linda goes through, and then there are many facets to it. Of course, there's like this A24 like ness to it that I feel has been missing in A24 films, where like there's the thing with like huge hole in the apartment, but that turns into a thing, and then
it has this like layer of surrealness and mystery and unexplained phenomena, despite being a really like intimate story about the stresses of motherhood.
Yeah, and then there's like another layer where Linda's a therapist, so she has to help people, especially another mother, try to go through issues that she's experiencing. And then there's a supporting star from Conan O'Brien, who's her therapist, who's also great in the film. But it's a really poignant look at motherhood, to the fact that like there's this one instance where that happened that is completely out of your control, that you feel like you internalize and you keep blaming yourself, and it kind of manifests in your life where like everything that you can possibly do for your daughter in this instance, or for it seems like a non-existent husband for most of the film, it is just not enough. And I feel like this movie inside over 90 minutes really quantifies that into a powerful film. It comes out October 10th. I think, like, I know A24 is positioning Smashing Machine, but like I think this is the movie that they should bet on.
I hope they do, because it is such a powerful movie. It was probably the best thing that I saw at Sundance, and I wonder if that October 10th release date is part of the reason why we didn't hear as much about it, with people maybe prioritize. I know we tend to prioritize the movies that don't have a release date, so we know we've got them far into the future. It's like we know we can see Roofman in a couple weeks. We know we can see Good Fortune in a couple weeks, and maybe people just did that with If I Had Legs I'd Kick You. But it is a shame, because it is really one of the most impactful films that will come out this year, and one that maybe did not get that kind of treatment when it was in Toronto.
It's weird, because I mean, like, you got to figure in Toronto, everybody wanted to see Sentimental Value, right? Everybody wanted to see Hamlet, because it got that buzz, out of Venice and things like that. Like, even with like Frankenstein or The Testament to Anne Lee, everybody wanted to see those films. But like, I feel like this film is going to resonate with a certain amount of the audience, and then people are going to be talking about it once it comes out.
Definitely. Great picks, all of them. Appreciate you giving some time to the podcast. If people want to read more of your opinions, or just check out more that you have to say about movies or whatever, where can people find more?
People can find me at all the social media accounts, even Letterboxd at MURJANIRAWLS. That is my name, MURJANI RAWLS. Of course, I work at Star Ledger, write at Substream Magazine, and then I have my own newsletter called Multi-Potentiality that will have reviews on it. So yeah, check out for me there. It was good to talk. It was good to be back on.
All right, we're back for another discussion post Toronto International Film Festival. We're joined by our guy, Michael Ashby, man about town, Sean Baker, porn box gifter, who we heard from last year after TIFF, the man who can't be ignored at a film festival, especially with rocking that Substance headband. It's a nice signature. It makes you have a distinctive look wherever you go.
Of course, I got noticed by like day one. At least 100 people came by. I didn't remember half of them. So, sorry if that was you, but
yeah.
It's my signature. Got to keep it there to have a film at TIFF.
When you make as many introductions as you do at the film festival, it's hard to keep everybody's name straight. But and you're not afraid to shake some hands and ask for some signatures. I know you got a bunch of awesome signatures on your tickets at TIFF this year, but I think the signature that stood out to me the most is you finally got your forehead signed at the festival this year.
Finally. It's been a long time coming. You know, Adam Driver said, "What? No," when I asked for him for Megalopolis, then signed a forehead in the movie. Sydney Sweeney was just like, no. And then Guillermo del Toro, he was like, hell yeah. Signed it with a smile on his face the whole time. What a guy.
I'm glad you finally got your forehead signature dreams achieved. We could spend a lot of time talking about your signatures and all those fun greetings, but I kind of want to hear what you thought of the movies. I know you were in Toronto for the full length of the festival, and I don't know what your final movie count was, but of all the films you saw, what was the best thing you saw there?
So I saw 20, and if I didn't go to Cannes, it would be Sentimental Value, because that's like my favorite movie of the year right now. But since I already saw it at Cannes, I didn't rewatch it at TIFF. Want to give other people a chance to see it. That masterpiece, go see Sentimental Value. My favorite, honestly, out of it is like kind of a shocker for me. It wasn't one I was really expecting, but it hit me really hard, and that was Eternity. The concept just completely engulfed me into this world. I mean, I waited around 12 hours in the rush line with my boy Tyler. Shout out to Tyler. Then whenever we eventually got in, only 8 people in the rush got let in, and we were front row. And you know, front row at Roy Thompson Hall, not the greatest seats. So you know, I already laid back, was getting ready for the screening, and almost tripped Divine Randolph and Elizabeth Olsen while they walked right in front of us. So that like immediately got me in the mood for the film. And there's just like a bunch of elements of the film that just really worked for me. The idea of living in an eternity for the rest of your life. And there was one line that Divine Joy Randolph's character says. She says to Mile Teller around like halfway through the film that she chose this job to help people because she really wanted to help people in their life, and she feel like she was doing good with it. But then it got to a point where repetition, you kind of lose the drive, you lose the feeling of joy that you get from it. That case really inspired her to want to try again in the future, and it like kind of brought the joy of her job back. That is a sentence I heard last year at TIFF from a friend of mine now named Henrietta, who works in distribution. She said she was kind of losing the joy of the festival. And then she met me, and it kind of reminded her of how much people enjoy these festivals and how, you know, much joy can be found at festivals. And this year, she kind of helped me get into a position to get a job. So hearing that line in the film at the festival, the day after I just had a meeting with people to potentially get a job at a production company, it just floored me. That line alone, you know, not that many people are going to resonate with that exact line, but it just hit me too hard. I even was able to briefly talk to Miles Teller afterwards, and I told him, and he offered me a fist bump and signed my ticket.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a movie just becomes a more transcendent experience when you can even take a small bit of it and relate it to something you're going through personally, or it just hits you at the exact right time in your life. And it seems like Eternity was that for a lot of people.
My friend that I went with, Tyler, he really enjoyed it also. It wasn't his favorite of the festival. But I don't think that many people were even talking about it that much, really. I had some friends see it on the later half of the festival, like the last day, and they were like very mixed on it. So I don't know where it stands with most people. But for me, it's definitely like my favorite of the fest.
Yeah, I know Amanda is probably with you in it being one of the best things she saw there. I think Chase also was a pretty big fan of Eternity. I'm curious to catch up with it once it comes out. I believe this November it should be out more widely. So that was the movie that you think was the best at the festival. What about the movie that surprised you the most? Something that threw you for a loop or gave you something different from what you expected?
The movie that surprised me the most at the Toronto International Film Festival this year was the first film I saw. Waited around like 6 hours in the rush line for it, and it was Erupcja. I knew very little about this going into it. I knew it was a Polish film that Charlie XCX is producing. So I decided, all right, that's going to be my first film of the festival. Went into it completely blind, knew basically nothing about it. Until I ran into you, and you're like, hey, this is kind of similar to what I did this year, going to Poland, proposing. But, you know, I'm really hoping yours didn't go. Like, the the one in the film.
No, mine went a little bit better.
Thank God. Because that guy, minor spoilers, the guy is going through it in that film, Erupcja. But it felt very similar to the Czech film Daisies, where it's focusing on the relationship between two girls that isn't, romantic or sexual, but just platonic friendship and their journey throughout the film. At first, you just think it's a normal, British people visiting Poland, but then it completely devolves into something else. And it has this really dry sense of humor and this very freeing feeling of the filmmakers, where it felt like something that most people don't make nowadays, because instead they'll come out with these multi-million-dollar budgets, and instead this felt very small, but it didn't feel, cheap. It didn't feel poor. Felt like it had this heart in it. The filmmakers had their heart in it. The crew had their heart in it. It was honestly completely just shocked me altogether.
I definitely responded to Erupcja a lot because of all the coincidences that it had with my own life, but I also think there's something really romantic about it, and not necessarily romantic in a romance love type of way, but romantic for life and for the possibilities of life and the things that different friendships and opportunities can bring you. It's just sort of a movie about different paths we can choose, and I like the sort of mumblecore loose feel of the story. Sometimes I feel like a plot can be a heavy burden on the movie, and this movie doesn't ever feel burdened by its plot. It's all vibe. So I'm really glad that you picked Erupcja, because it's one of the movies that's really stuck with me through TIFF as well. But for my last question, I'm curious, what's the movie that you wish more people were talking about that people are just not really discussing?
My answer for this might sound almost contradictory to the question itself, but it's one that I actually missed out on Cannes. But I was able to see 20 minutes of it in French. It was just an accident. I feel like a lot of people are rubbing this off as okay, it won the Palme d'Or. We don't really need to talk about it. And then finally being able to watch it with the context of having an actual translation instead of it being in French translations, being able to understand the story and just almost how powerful the actual messaging and the story is. I feel like it's going really, really underlooked to an extent. People are rubbing it off okay, it won the Palme d'Or. It was good. I had a fun time with it. I've never had a Q&A really make me as almost emotional. I wasn't crying up during the Q&A, but that Q&A did hit me really hard. It made me think more about the film that I just watched. Panahi, man, does he know how to give a good speech. Being able to listen to him speak twice now, and the second time finally knowing the power of his film and what he did in it. I feel like it's a political film that doesn't force you to lean this way or that way, but instead just allows you to understand the people in the political climate and how they are affected.
I'm glad that you felt strongly about it was just an accident, because coming off the Palme d'Or, there's a lot of interest and hype around it, and I feel like I've been hearing people talk about some of the other Cannes holdovers, but Panahi is such a massive filmmaker, and his story is so interesting, especially how he was able to make this film happen. I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard pretty much exclusively positive things about it.
Because also, coming from Cannes, the word on the street was a lot of people were okay, it was rigged, it was just an accident, only won because the jury holder. And there was all these conspiracy where people were saying boo. I heard some boos whenever I was at the Palme d'Or ceremony, because people either didn't see the film, didn't understand the film, or they just felt so charged that they wanted a different film to win. There was a lot of sentimental value shooters out there. I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of them. But I will say It Was Just an Accident is a great film as well, and it deserves recognition.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear you responded so positively to it. It definitely seems like it's one of the movies that to look out for this fall season. Would you be surprised if it was in contention for a Best Picture nomination?
I mean, I love following the Oscar season. I'm terrible at predicting what gets nominated, but I'm pretty good at predicting what wins. Honora all year long. But I honestly don't know. It's a huge toss-up this year. I mean, it's definitely getting the international. It just got backed by France.
Yeah.
But I see sentimental value as a huge player in multiple categories. While I see It Was Just an Accident could potentially maybe get into the Best Picture run. and maybe director, potentially screenplay, but I don't really see like the push or the drive of like an acting nomination, like Sentimental Value, who I know people that are predicting it potentially winning and being nominated in 3 different acting spots for best leading actor, supporting actress, and supporting actor.
It might be a very international Oscars this year with those 2 movies, with No Other Choice and plenty of other worthy contenders. It's going to be an interesting fall movie season heading into 2026. But I'm glad we got to get a jump on a lot of the best upcoming movies at this year's TIFF. I'm glad it sounds like you had another really great time up in Toronto, one of the best film-going cities in America. If people want to find out more from you, where can they look you up, Michael?
You guys can follow me on Instagram, Michael Ashby __. Follow me on Letterboxd, Michael _A_SS. And, hopefully I'll be having something a little bit bigger in the pipeline coming up soon. So just keep an eye out on the Instagram and, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
We're looking forward to it, man. Best of luck. Thanks for doing this. We're welcoming to the Intercut podcast channel an extremely excited guest. I'm such an honor to have him join us for this program. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Arturo Zurita? Is that it?
At the end, I watch all the time. I watch all the time. I'm a big fan. I'm really excited to be here. I caught y'all's preview, and I'm just really excited to talk movies.
Yeah, we always like the chance to connect with fans here on the podcast.
Thanks.
So,
long time follower, one's the first time commenter.
Man, it's always a shame when we don't get you in Toronto. We miss having you join us for movies north of the border. Even though you did not make it out to Canada, though, I know that did not stop you from watching movies and maybe following our letterbox. I don't know if you,
bro. I will be there virtually.
Do you have any FOMO this year watching us log movies like Hamnet or Rental Family, dude. Nirvana again?
There's a beauty from all these festivals that we go as we are about to wrap up Sundance and, when we do South by, that there's that TIFF energy. I'm smelling the Tim Hortons, bro. Mm-hmm. There's an environment in going into the Scotiabank, up those escalators like no other festival does. Being in that TIFF light bell box, like I don't think a better theater in all festivals has sound like that. Maybe the Ray, but I love the TIFF light box and just Toronto in general. Like y'all got to see the Midnight Madness, one of our favorite movies of this year, in the city. That's a character in the movie. Of course, I'm talking about Nirvana.
And then they brought the RV. We got to see the RV.
That's crazy, bro. Like, who needs a Criterion Closet, right, when you got the RV?
And they brought the Criterion Closet, too. They had everything.
I'm always excited when Toronto comes around, just for the lineup in and of itself. But it's always the best bang for your buck film festival, as they say here on Intercut that I tune into. And it's just, like, always a place to start off the fall.
Exactly.
Not everyone's going to Telluride. Sometimes we go to Venice, I guess, if you got the money for it. But TIFF is just beautiful. It is the film fans' festival, really. So
Yeah, we love going there. And even though you didn't get to join us, I know you'll be catching up with a lot of those movies when they hit Chicago International or whatever time that they catch up with you. But you did get to see a few movies. You were granted access to some elusive titles and maybe some things that slip through the cracks or are not as high profile as a lot of the movies that we normally talk about at TIFF, but still movies that are worth discussing. I'm curious of what you got a chance to see. What was the best thing that you saw at this year's TIFF?
Yeah, out of a lot of the links, usually it helps with balancing out all of the independent movies, something that you may not be able to catch in theaters there, but when you're catching all the big ones that you're waiting in line, it helps when a PR team is really excited for their movie, an international flick, and you're able to catch it in between or virtually when you're at home. And there's this little movie called Under the Same Sun, dude, I thought it was really, really beautiful. It is, I believe, the debut, like solo debut for this director, because they've done a lot of co-directing in the past. Ulysses, I want to say, Porra. But it takes place in the 1800s, and I was comparing it to First Cow, which I was telling you right before this.
Yeah.
Where you have 3 individuals just trying to survive. It's not even here. I want to say like it's in it's in the Caribbean specifically. So it's like post even getting here, right? And it's a young Spaniard, a Chinese weaver, and a Haitian deserter. These 3 people can't even communicate with each other. and they start a silk business. You already know, it's like First Cow trying to sell those milk pies, and it's all about like who's gonna one up another person. All of these big ideas that we talk about with countries and such, in a micro view with these three individuals, and who's willing to one up the other person, or who's willing to work with each other, and those barriers that are there. Obviously, the title speaks for itself. You know, no matter all the differences, everyone still is under the same sun, but not everyone has the exact same access, power. In the, you know, you have the Haitian deserter who has the ability to create things because he's like twice the size of our main guy, but our main guy's white, and all of the people there with power are going to see him over his Haitian friend. The Chinese weaver is actually the one with the most talent, and it's this like push and pull of these three that I thought was just really beautiful, incredible performances, and some of the best cinematography, man. This is a beautiful, beautiful movie. I don't think it's been picked up by anybody yet, or is a submission either, but this is definitely one of my favorite ones from the links that I got, and definitely a hidden gem that I would recommend people to catch when they can.
Yeah, it sounds like a really beautiful one, and especially just that whole element that you're mentioning of the inability to communicate. Well, it sounds like it would force a really interesting cinematic language for the film. I'm very excited to catch up with that one because you have done nothing but praise it highly.
Yeah, very good movie.
So that was the one that you thought was the best, but what movie surprised you? What were you not expecting to enjoy as much as you did?
Look, there's a couple of different things that were out there. They sent me Charlie Harper. Thought it was cute. They're trying to do Blue Valentine for the kiddos, Zach. That's out there for
Gen
people
Z
who want
Blue
that.
Valentine?
Yeah, there was a movie called I Swear, where it's a real life story of a man who has Tourette syndrome, and
Right.
In high school, Tourette man. I want to say Tourette's guy was huge on YouTube at that time.
Yeah.
This is it, you know, pushing even forward than Tourette's guy. Tourette's guy did what he did so that this movie can go farther. And it's I don't know the actor by heart, but it's the dude who played young Ned Stark. You see his face and you go, where have I seen you? Oh, that's right. The biggest episodes of Game of Thrones. And he kills it. You know, we're always talking about, like, in one performance, are you playing a disability up, or are you playing it in a nuanced way? He plays it pretty well. It's a heartfelt movie. I know it's getting a big release over in the UK, where the man was like really big, won the Nobel, he won a prize from the Queen and everything. But it's how he deals with its Tourette's, which I thought was interesting. To the Victory was a mixed little movie. I think it won a platform award as well, where the guy is directing in the Ukraine, where his whole family has left, and it's just him, you know, saying, "No, I'm going to stay here." But he's playing himself as the director, and his family has actually left. It's this weird amalgamation. It is almost so corny, but it is in that corniness that you find some intriguing things. Like, there is a bit where, while he's arguing with his family because they're away, and his son's like, "You're only staying here because you want to direct a movie. You don't even care for me." He's got to do a Q&A. I had never seen the Q&As you and I sit for, where they lock somebody in through Skype. It's from his perspective.
Yeah.
It's so goofy. It works. It's elongated.
It's a really
at times,
interesting like meta presentation
works, right?
too, because it's sort of, he's talking about how the film will get into film festivals, and then you're watching it as part of a film festival.
A film festival, yeah. And I like it also, you know, obviously all the parallels that you could talk about of Ukraine and those people and the displacement, for sure, yeah, easily. But the idea of him almost looking at the medium of his work, which is movies, surviving alongside his country, surviving, and the country can only survive if you remain in the country and not leave it, and the movies can only survive if you keep making them. To the Victory, pretty decent movie, check that one out. But the one that I'm really gonna hone in on here was this movie called Dandelion's Odyssey. Dude, they remade Flow with dandelions, bro. It is dandelions just trying to survive, and they make it up into space. There is no words. You know exactly how this movie is going. If animals was still a cheat code in getting you to like connect with the animation on screen, these things don't even have eyes, but they still have so much character. A beautiful little movie. Definitely check this one out if you can. This was my biggest surprise of the fest because, one, I didn't think they were going to send it to me, but they made me sign something for it, and I was like, hey, I appreciate it. Very short as well, 76 minutes, but with no dialogue, no anything. I thought it was just like Flow, just like the robot one with the dog from a couple years ago. A really interesting look in being able to tell a story of community and perseverance with a floating dandelion that survives an apocalypse practically.
And this one's animated?
Just fully animated, dude. Like, just same way Flow was.
That sounds
dialogue
kind of lovely. Do you think that's like a potential Oscar-nominated Best Animated Feature, or does it feel like too small for that even?
It feels a little too small. Like, I think Flow was already picking up a lot more praise, and this one isn't.
Yeah.
I also feel it's one of those things where if you don't have Flow, the novelty would have grown a little bit more for this one. But I still think it's pretty decent.
Nice. Well, curious to check that one out. As far as films that you think maybe deserved a little bit more love than they're getting, ones that you are surprised you're not seeing more people discuss, any movies like that you were able to catch from TIFF this year?
Yeah, I got my big one right here. I wasn't even expecting much out of it either because there's a lot of these like hybrid films that we've been talking about, and I thought this was a documentary for the longest time. They sent this link right at the last minute, just sent it over to you as well. Laundry. This movie is not getting enough talk. I'm not even saying it's not getting enough praise. It's just there's not enough people for there to even be a consensus on Letterboxd. It is a movie in South Africa where the guy who runs the laundromat is pretty much, because he's black, able to get some privileges because he was friends with like one dude who gave him this like medal. Hey, what's a medal gonna do to the racists who don't like you? Nothing. So it's this big push and pull of him and his kids who have all of these different dreams of leaving South Africa. They want to go to America and the like. And one of them in particular gets involved with like music, rebellious music that can get you killed because they don't like what it represents. That underscores the whole movie. While the dad's trying to like, the dad ends up going through some turmoil because he's trying to get visas for his kids, and that gets him in trouble. But it's a really good family movie in where like one of the aspects is that the father is cheating, and in the father cheating and them running a laundromat, they find his lover's like visa. So what do? Snitch? Or let that girl go so your father stops cheating. It's little moments like that, Zach, that I was like, whoa, this is pretty good. And then they hit you with an ending that I was not expecting. And it's one that sticks with you. I really appreciate it. I think it's a really big swing coming out of this director who I haven't seen their previous work, and this may be one of their big debuts. I think the rest of them may be shorts. I really liked it. It was a surprise for me. Shot very well considering the budget and where it comes from. They did a great job. Laundry.
And it feels like a lot of times the film festivals in particular don't do a great job of highlighting African films. But, this is a film out of South Africa. And I remember even last year there was another film hailing from Africa at TIFF that I felt was like one of the underseen movies of the festival. So it's good to find time and highlight some of these ones as well. Yep. It sounds really interesting.
It's fascinating, dude. So definitely give this one a watch. At 100 minutes, they give you a good drama, but I was really surprised with the amount of tense scenes in there as well. Things that'll boil your blood and pretty good swing. And I could see them, bigger budgets, more attention, and I'm looking forward to the follow up.
Very cool. Director. Appreciate all your picks. If the people want to hear more from you, where can they find more LME Movies opinions?
Hey, you can find me on LME Movies on all social media, and hopefully I'm back on the Intercut podcast where you can maybe get here next
I'll
time.
Talk to the producers. Maybe they'll allow it. This has been fun. It's been fun talking to you about movies.
Decent. Hey, appreciate
it. Anytime. That's all for this edition of the Intercut podcast. Our show's theme is Green Lightning by Calcendry. Thanks so much to them for letting us use it, and find more of their music at the link in our episode description. A huge thanks to all the people who joined us for this TIFF Critics Picks episode. Their info is in the description for this episode as well. Catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich, and find more of my videos wherever you find videos at Multiplex Show. Listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Pocket Casts, Spotify, I Like Overcast, and then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but the video feed as well on youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our bright festival-going faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday, and please leave us a comment, like the video, consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review, like our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter pages, support us on Patreon. You can find all those at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from me, from Arturo, from Amanda, from all the guests that we featured on this episode. and support the show for as little as $3 a month to get your name featured on screen like the people you're seeing on screen right now. Thanks so much to all of them for supporting the show. Check out the link to our Discord server in the description of this episode to keep the conversation going throughout the week. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, the people's choice is the choice of the people.